Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders with minus 65 net points. Getting closer to that break-even zero, ladies and gentlemen. General Manager Dave Ziegler, Head Coach Josh McDaniels, Offensive Coordinator Mick Lombardi, Defensive Coordinator Patrick Graham, Special Teams Tom McMahon, and quarterback Derek Carr.
Wow.
Brain Trust.
The Raiders made a lot of noise this offseason. A whole lot of noise. Look at the GM first. GM is Dave Ziegler. Again, he was a scout, worked for Denver, and then he was director of scouting and player personnel for New England. So a lot of times these teams, these owners look to New England people to bring in because of the long and illustrious resume of a lot of coaches that come out of New England. But they didn't stop there, taking Dave Ziegler as the GM. They went after the Patriots offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, and made him the head coach. This is the second time that Josh McDaniels has been a head coach. He had a short stint with the Denver Broncos that didn't go so well. But he started his career as a personnel assistant and a quarterback coach for the Patriots and held those positions from 2001 to 2005. Then he became the OC in 2006. I think 2009 is when he went over to the Broncos. They fired him after one season. It just didn't go well. I just don't think he was ready to be a head coach, really. You know what I mean? It takes a little – being a coordinator is one thing. Being a head coach is something else.
Yeah.
I don't think he was ready, but he may be ready now. He ended up in St. Louis after the Broncos let him go with the Rams when they were in St. Louis as their offensive coordinator. That lasted one season, and he went back to the Patriots. That was in 2012. He's been the offensive coordinator for 6 Patriots Super Bowl wins, 2002, 4, 5, 2015, 17, and 19. Can't get much better resume than that. That is the Raiders' new head coach, Josh McDaniels. And if he's as good at a head coach as he has been an offensive coordinator, the Raiders have really got something. As his offensive coordinator, he hired Mick Lombardi. Okay. Mick Lombardi has been an offensive assistant or position coach with several teams, the 49ers, the Jets, and the Patriots. And he was also an assistant to McDaniels up in New England, which makes sense for McDaniels to bring him along. The defensive coordinator is Patrick Graham. He's a longtime defensive coach, spent 7 seasons with the Patriots. Another reason why McDaniels probably brought him along. He's worked as a defensive assistant and position coach for a lot of teams, Giants, Packers, Dolphins. He's been around. He was actually DC for the Giants back in 2020 and 2021. So he's got that under his belt. Derek Carr is a top flight quarterback in the NFL. Derek Carr is a big time fantasy player. If you need a quarterback in fantasy and you don't like to pick quarterbacks early, Derek Carr will be sitting for you in the middle rounds of your fantasy draft. Get him if you can. He puts up numbers. He got some big additions. Devontae Adams was stolen away from the Green Bay Packers, and Chandler Jones was stolen away from the Cardinals. Yes. So you got big time.
I was telling you when I was playing Madden, I was like, when J.J. Watt was there, I was like, if you're running one side, you got J.J. Watt. You're running to the other side, you got Chandler
Jones. Right. So they pick up a big-time wide receiver and a big-time pass rusher. And let me see. Picked up a linebacker, Jaylen Brown. Where did Jaylen Brown come from? He's not from the Cowboys, is he?
I'm not sure, but we'll look it up real quick. Okay. Go ahead.
Great. Their biggest losses, and they did have a couple. Casey Hayward, the cornerback, I believe he wasn't even there that long. I kind of remember him being with the Chargers. He's now gone. Zay Jones was a wide receiver who wasn't really making much noise. That won't be a big deal. But Yannick Ngakoue, they will miss him on their defensive line. They got a B+ from Pro Football Focus on their draft, but didn't have any early picks in the first 2 rounds. In round 3, they took Dylan Parham, who's an outside linebacker from Memphis, who I believe I heard a few good things about.
Jayon Brown, Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. All right. Yannick Ngakoue, they let him go, eh?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. All right. Who do we have next? The Steelers. Pittsburgh with minus 55 net points. General manager Kevin Colbert. Head coach Mike Tomlin. Offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Defensive coordinator Terrell Austin. Special teams coordinator Danny Smith. And quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Really funny reading a headline that basically they're saying Mike Tomlin is talking about this competition that's going to happen between the 3 quarterbacks on their roster.
Oh my goodness. One of those is Rudolph. You gotta be kidding me, man.
Yes.
If they didn't have Trubisky, they'd be handing the job to Pickett right now. That's ridiculous. But I have breaking news on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Uh-oh.
Kevin Colbert, who, as I was gathering my information, found out started as a scout for the Dolphins and also worked for the Lions and all, has decided to step down.
Wow.
He is stepping down, and I believe today they hired Omar Khan. He was the Steelers' vice president of football and business administration, and he was promoted to general manager. He's been working in the Steelers front office for the last 21 years. Talk about working your way up.
Really?
Yes. Omar Khan. 21 years, all with one organization.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's
kind of the Steelers' way, though. Let's look at head coach Mike Tomlin. Everybody knows Mike Tomlin. He was the DB coach for the Buccaneers from 2001 to 2005, and he was defensive coordinator for the Vikings in 2006 and became head coach of the Steelers in 2007 and has been there ever since. Offensive coordinator is Matt Canada, a longtime college coach with several schools, an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach everywhere he has been. He spent 2020 as the quarterback coach for the Steelers and became the OC just last season. So again, you know, the Steelers like to stick to their own guys, you know what I mean? They don't usually go searching to other organizations for their front office people. DC is Terrell Austin. He was DB coach for the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Ravens. He was defensive coordinator for the Lions and Bengals, and he was hired by the Steelers as their secondary coach in 2019 and then elevated to DC coming into this season.
Awesome.
Mitch Trubisky, wow. I thought this was going to be the chance for him to kind of turn his career around. But when they drafted Kenny Pickett, that made me question that. I think they really, really like Kenny Pickett. They took him in the first round with the number 20 pick. That tells me something. Well, it definitely tells me he will at least compete to start. But Trubisky has experience on him. He's been around the NFL. He's been in locker rooms. He's seen playbooks. He may be able to hold him off. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Not if they rate them on the ability to do a fake slide, man. Because if so, Kenny, he's the fake slide guy, man.
Oh, that's right. That's the fake slide guy, Kenny Pickett. They did pick up a nice wide receiver, though, in George Pickens from Georgia. Good speed, good hands, good route runner. He should compete for a starting job right away. DeMarvin Leal, defensive tackle. I don't know him too well, but he came from Texas A&M. They run a good program there. And Calvin Austin, I think he's another one of those guys that had a really good 40 time. He's out of Memphis, wide receiver.
Now, I'm interested to see how Miles Jack works out with the Steelers. He's always been quietly good.
Yeah.
So
they did. Oh, and also, although this is a later round pick, we have more bloodlines. They picked up fullback Connor Hayward.
Cam.
Connor Hayward is the brother of Cameron Hayward, who also plays for the Steelers and is a defensive tackle. Connor Hayward is a fullback, and I believe he played some tight end in college. They are both the sons of the late Craig Ironhead Hayward.
Wow.
Remember Ironhead?
Who could forget a guy named Ironhead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So that's kind of cool. Two brothers on the same team. We got that going on.
Yeah, it's happening, man. We did the little family thing not too long ago. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. We have the Miami Dolphins at minus 32 net points. Now, again, you're beginning to see the relative difference between, let's say, the Jacksonville Jaguars with over 200, minus 200 net points, versus your Miami Dolphins are getting close to break even here.
Right.
General manager Chris Greer, head coach Mike McDaniel, offensive coordinator Frank Smith, defensive coordinator Josh Boyer, special teams coach Danny Crossman, and quarterback is Tua Tagliabue.
You almost had it.
You think I would have got that by this time? Tagovailoa. Tagovailoa.
Some people say Tagovailoa, so I'm not sure, but it looks like it's Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like the Dolphins have decided that Tua is going to be their quarterback right away once making that decision, and not going into free agency and not going into the draft to look for quarterback. They began to better their team and build a team around Tua. First of all, the GM, Chris Greer. He's worked in the scouting departments of both the Patriots and the Dolphins, so they didn't have far to go to get this guy. He's been with the Dolphins since 2016. He's actually been the GM since 2016, but they got him from the Patriots organization, which a lot of teams like to do. His head coach is Mike McDaniel. He was an offensive assistant and or position coach with Washington, also with the Browns, also with the Falcons and the 49ers. He, in fact, was the 49ers offensive coordinator last season, although I don't know how much of the offense he called because we know Shanahan likes to call his own stuff.
That's going to be the question.
Yeah, but he was anyway, he did enough to get the head coaching job for the Dolphins, so we'll see.
And you know something? Now that you mention it, I hadn't really thought about Mike McDaniel as kind of like who's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs?
I hate that when that happens.
Yeah, I know. I'm having the mind.
It'll come to me.
But long story short, same situation where,
right.
The head coach is given all the offensive genius credit, but Mike McDaniel was able to get a head coaching job, and the Chiefs offensive coordinator has not been able to get one yet. So,
well, it's pretty obvious it's pretty obvious to me anyway, that the Dolphins are impressed with the way the 49ers run their offense. They feel like they have similar type players, and they want to get somebody who's been around Shanahan. They can't get Shanahan, so why not get Mike McDaniel? You know what I mean?
Let's throw Eric Bieniemy.
Bieniemy, that's it.
We could not come up with.
Right. A guy who should have gotten one of these head coaching jobs this season.
You think?
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed for him for next season. The offensive coordinator is Frank Smith. He's been an offensive position coach, mostly with offensive lines and tight ends. He's worked for the Saints, the Bears, the Raiders, and the Chargers. And the defensive coordinator is Josh Boyer. He's been a defensive assistant and DB coach for the Patriots and the Dolphins. As a pass game coordinator, they promoted him to defensive coordinator in 2019. Let's see, we got here big additions. Okay, now this is where Dolphins really made some noise. They signed Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead. Got Hill from the Chiefs. Hill is arguably one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Teron Armstead is arguably one of the best offensive linemen. Okay, so that helps Tua right away. Gives him a weapon and a protector. Big time moves. Then, I don't even know if you had this on some of your stuff. They got Chase Edmonds, running back from the Cardinals. Xavier Howard, a cornerback that they love and is a top corner in the league. They signed him to a contract extension.
Okay.
They re-signed Emmanuel Agba, a big-time defensive end. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater to back up Tua.
Is that who they got backing up Tua now?
Yes, sir. They had to get somebody. They re-signed Mike Gesicki, a top tight end. Maybe Gesicki's arguably top 5 tight end right now.
Yeah, he's good.
Grabbed the running back away from the Niners. We just talked about them trying to work their offense the way the Niners do. They grabbed Raheem Mostert. That adds speed and depth to their running game. And they got a guy that really impressed me last year and got me a lot of points in fantasy, Cedric Wilson. They got away from the Cowboys. He replaced Michael Gallup when Gallup went out hurt and worked with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and did pretty well. And all they lost was Will Fuller, who's hurt all the time, Jason McCourty, who's getting kind of old, and Jacoby Brissett, who's been around forever. Those are their major losses. Oh, picked up a nice linebacker in the 3rd round of the draft, even though they didn't have any early picks. Channing Tindall was on my list of top linebackers coming out. He's from Georgia.
For a team with a dearth of draft picks, they did pretty well.
Yes, they did very well.
Yeah. All right. Miami Dolphins pulling it together.
They really did their homework when free agency came in. They knew who they needed to re-sign, and they knew who they needed to go get, and they went and got them.
And they knew they didn't have anything in their draft pocket hardly.
Right. So they had to be very careful about letting people go. That's why they re-signed major players too. They didn't want to let them go.
It's amazing.
Circumstances.
Yeah. All right, we're getting close to it. The Cleveland Browns with minus 22 net points. GM Andrew Berry, head coach Kevin Stefanski, offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, defensive coordinator Joe Woods, special teams coordinator Mike Prefer, and they're listing their quarterback as Deshaun Watson. What can I tell you?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do early in the season, especially if Deshaun Watson has to serve a suspension, which we don't know about yet. I mean, everybody.
I cannot see him not serving some kind of.
I can't see it either. So we're all assuming that.
And I can't see him. To me, it would be almost, I'll say a bad thing for lack of a more intellectual way to say it, if he doesn't get like 6 games at least.
It would set a bad precedent. And a precedent for these kind of things has already kind of been set. I think the precedent was like 6 to 8 for previous, domestic crimes against women type things, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. And you know, it makes it even weirder with Baker Mayfield acting the way he's acting when you pretty much, Mr. Baker, are going to get an opportunity to play early in the season because more than likely Deshaun's not going to be there.
Dude,
So
nobody wants to be the lame duck quarterback.
well, that might be true, but if you are a lame duck quarterback and you go out and you play well, you help yourself. It's always going to be about how well you play, you know? But if he's running around crying and moaning and, you know, I want out of here, it's not going to help him because nobody seems to be jumping up and down to bring Baker Mayfield to their team. But if Baker Mayfield comes out, he's healthy and he shows he can run a squad and he looks competitive, you never know, you know? You still got a lot of people like Wentz and, you know, all of those guys that, you know, they're only a few fumbles and turnovers away from somebody going,
He's already said he's not going to show up for OTAs.
Mistake. I think it's a mistake, but okay.
We'll see.
You know what else? And a lot of these guys already have a guaranteed contract for the year. So it's not like he doesn't have guaranteed money sitting there. You know, they're paying him, you know, and this is kind of the same thing. Well, I won't go too far into that. Long story short, Deshaun's not going to be there. So it's going to be an opportunity for somebody early in the season.
Yeah, somebody. I don't know who that somebody's going to be. Let's see. So let's talk about GM Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry has been a scouting coordinator for the Colts, Browns, and Eagles. And since 2020, he's been the GM of the Browns. So Andrew Berry has been there for a while. He's seen the good times and the bad, and he's going to have to figure out what to do with Baker. He's also the guy that brought in Deshaun. The head coach is Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski has been with the Vikings since 2006 as an offensive assistant and a position coach. He didn't become a coordinator until 2018, and then he came over to the Browns in 2020 as a head coach. So he hasn't been an offensive coordinator that long, but he has been an offensive assistant. He's been around. And if I remember correctly, let me see, what did I say? Position coach. All right, he worked mostly with the Vikings. So he's had some players. He knows how to handle players. I think he'll be a good head coach. Offensive coordinator is Alex Van Pelt. He's also an ex-player, if I remember correctly. He's been around for a long time. One time he was an offensive coordinator with the Bills way back in 2009. He bounced around as a position coach with a whole bunch of other teams, the Bucks, the Packers, the Bengals, before he got hired back as an offensive coordinator by the Browns in 2020. So he's been there for 2 seasons now. And the defensive coordinator is Joe Woods. He was a DB coach at several small colleges from 1992 to 2004. So this guy's been around the coaching ranks for a long time, spent a lot of that time in the small college arena. When he did become a defensive quality control coach for the Buccaneers back in 2005, he was a DB coach also with the Raiders and the Broncos, and he had a short stint as a defense coordinator with the Broncos from 2015 to 2016. He then was a DB coach for the 49ers, and then he became defense coordinator for the Browns in 2020. So their whole staff has been there the last couple of years. They all have 2 seasons under their belts. So building back the Browns might turn out to be more successful than unsuccessful because these guys have been working together for quite a while now. Well, a couple of years is quite a while in the NFL. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is the big addition. I don't know who's going to go to quarterback until he's ready. They also picked up Amari Cooper from the Cowboys. They also re-signed Jadeveon Clowney to a big contract, so that was a big deal. But they did lose Jarvis Landry. Cooper should make up for Landry. I don't think that's going to be that big a deal. I like Landry. He's with the Saints now, but gaining Amari Cooper, I think Amari Cooper's looking forward to working with Deshaun Watson. That might turn out to be a real nice combination.
So So I have here the Jadeveon Clowney, but he actually re-signed with the Browns.
Yes, I believe he just did just the other day.
Just did.
Yeah.
Just did. Okay. All right. So that, I tell you, things move quick.
Yes,
All
they
right.
do.
Mari Cooper and David Njoku. Draft picks.
Yeah, they got a B plus for the draft. That means they did well in the later rounds. They only had 2 third-round picks. Martin Emerson is a cornerback out of Mississippi. I think he graded fairly high for Pro Football Focus. Alex Wright is D end out of UAB. I don't know too much about him. David Bell's a pretty good wide receiver from Purdue. I think he's another one of those speedy guys. Had a nice 40 time at the combine.
All right. All right.